Hi everybody, it's Rebecca Virginia, and today I'm going to be showing you 3 home decor Dollar Tree DIYs. If you haven't already, make sure that you are following me on Instagram and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell on my YouTube channel so you never miss out on a future video. Now let's get started with the first DIY. Our first DIY in today's video is a welcome floral wreath. Here are all of the items that you'll need to recreate this wreath on your own. I found this 3-piece brass wreath ring set, that was a mouthful, at the Dollar Tree, and it was such an amazing deal. I cannot believe that they had 3 of these for only $1. It was such a bargain. If you see these at your Dollar Tree, definitely pick them up because they are a gorgeous item. And again, I can't believe it's $1, but I say that a lot. And the Dollar Tree always surprises me. Then I got this smaller welcome wreath, and this was found near the crafting section, and I found the larger brass rings actually near the gardening section. And to tie the 2 of these together, I am taking some jute and just wrapping it around the top so that our welcome ring is now adhered down to our larger brass ring. I also wanted to give you some other options. I've seen so many of the welcome brass ring signs, but just in case you couldn't find it, you can always use one of these galvanized signs that are found in the Crafter Square section. After wrapping the jute around the 2 rings, I did add a little bit of hot glue to each end of the jute just to make sure that it didn't slip or move anything around. Now is the really fun part, or at least it was for me, and that is arranging all of these beautiful Dollar Tree florals. I didn't know if you guys were interested in actually seeing how I do my floral arrangements and all of my flower arranging, so I went ahead and just made one instead of showing you guys. Let me know in the comments down below if that's something you want to see more of, or maybe a tutorial on how to create floral arrangements. But as you can see, I just used some floral tape and a little bit of floral wire to adhere everything together. And yes, those are all Dollar Tree florals that are currently out right now. I loved all of the different peach shades. To hold together all of the different florals and some of the leaves in the floral arrangement, I used floral tape, but then to attach the floral arrangement to the actual brass ring, I used floral wire, and I didn't even have to use that much. I did 2 on the center area near the larger flower, and then I did 2 on each of the ends of the floral arrangement, and right here I ended up putting another one right underneath that larger flower just because that's the heaviest part of the arrangement and I wanted to make sure it stayed in place. The last step is to add a hanger to our wreath, so I just took a piece of jute and made it into 2, then just tied a knot at the end of it and hot glued it to the back of the wreath. Also, if anyone is having any trouble finding the supplies, I've seen the brass welcome signs quite a few times at my Dollar Tree, but I know that the 3-piece brass rings are a little bit harder to find. But if you can't find them, I would really suggest using one of the tomato planters that the Dollar Tree sells. They're out right now and they come with 3 rings, and all that you would have to do is take some metallic spray paint and spray it and you would have your own brass ring. My next DIY is a floral hoop centerpiece. So it's very similar to our previous DIY, but I think that this project would look great as a centerpiece on a table, especially for any graduations, weddings, or other special events that are coming up. And we're going to be using almost all of the same supplies that we did in the first DIY with the addition of this wood box. To do this, I am going to be taking one of these wood boxes from the Crafter Square section, and I'm removing the lid. I'll use that for another DIY, I'm sure, and we're actually going to be using this box flipped over. And to begin, I am taking my Waverly Stain in Antique, and then I just took a microfiber cloth, also from the Dollar Tree, put a little bit of water on it just to make it a little bit damp, and then just rubbed in the stain all over the box. This brass ring came in a set of 3, just like I showed you in the previous DIY, and this is the middle hoop. So if you have the same Dollar Tree 3-piece hoop as I do, I'm using the middle one. And I just put down a little bit of duct tape just to kind of act as a placeholder so I could see where if I was centered or if I liked where the hoop was. Realistically, you could probably just leave it duct taped if you didn't want to add the hot glue like I am right now, because we're going to be placing the florals over it. But if you wanted it to be a little bit more professional, just in case any of that duct tape does show through, I would recommend just hot gluing it down. After my hoop was hot glued down onto the wooden box, the rest of this DIY is really easy. I'm just taking the floral arrangement that I made from earlier and 3 small pieces of floral wire, and I'm just adhering the ends to the hoop where I liked it, and then doing 1 little piece of floral wire in the center as well. I wanted that center flower, which is the largest one, to of course be the focal point or centerpiece, so I did fluff it up a little bit just to make sure that it was all spread out and the center. If you wanted to add a bit more glam to this floral DIY, I also think it would be really beautiful with some dangling crystals or gems hanging from the top of the hoop. Today's video is done in collaboration with Eileen from TheHartsDIY. Please be sure to head over to her channel and subscribe and check out all of the beautiful creations that she is making for today's collab, and let her know that I sent you. I will also link her Instagram down below too. Eileen does so many gorgeous DIYs. I love all of the farmhouse ones that she does. She has such a creative mind, and I would love it if you guys headed on over to her channel and checked her out. Now, back to the DIYs. The last DIY in today's video is a hanging planter. Here are all of the supplies that you'll need to make your own. So I'm beginning this DIY by painting these little plastic pots I found in the gardening section at the Dollar Tree. If you have any of those little pot of golds from St. Patrick's Day or cauldrons from Halloween, I think those would work even better, but unfortunately I went right after St. Patrick's Day and they were out at my Dollar Tree. But these ended up working too, and I painted 1 blue, 1 green, and 1 brown, and I'm not doing anything special here, so I didn't show you the brown one. All that I'm doing is painting these little gardening pots. Then I thought it would be very on trend to do a cork board accent, so I took this cork paper from the Dollar Tree. It has an adhesive side to it, and I cut a strip, and my plan was to place it along the center of these gardening pots, and it was basically an epic fail. It did not work at all. I even tried cutting the strand thinner, but because it was a circle shape, it was bubbling, it didn't lay flat, and it just didn't look good. And then it ripped off all of the paint when I peeled it off. I even tried to put it on the bottom, and it wasn't working, so I had to scrap this idea. Although the Dollar Tree does sell some cork ribbon, and I think that would be really pretty. I even went to my Dollar Tree to try to salvage this project, and they didn't have any. So if you have that, you can go ahead and use that. But unfortunately for me, I just had to improvise and come up with a different design. So I decided to do some color blocking on these pots, and I didn't want to do just plain white paint, so I decided to do my DIY ceramic paint method. And if you want a full tutorial on how to get this faux ceramic look, I did a really in-depth tutorial in last week's video, so I will link that above if you wanted to learn more about how to achieve the look of this paint technique. But all that I did was apply the paint to the bottom, and because it was such a disaster with the cork board peeling the paint off of the plastic, I did a test strip with the painter's tape and it did peel the paint off. So I'm trying to make it in a straight line and not super messy, which of course it did end up a little bit messy, but I kind of like the look. It's going to go outside and it's supposed to be a gardening DIY, so I didn't mind that it wasn't perfect crisp lines, but if you do, you might have to find a better painter's tape than me because it might peel the paint off of the plastic. Also, you'll see this a little bit later on in the video as well, but this really bright blue planter, I actually ended up painting more of a peachy coral, but I do show you that a little bit later on, but I didn't want you to be too surprised. To fill in my planters, I use succulents from the Dollar Tree. The Dollar Tree has so many different types of greenery and florals and plants, and I was really impressed with their succulent section. I ended up just leaving this one right in its little holder. For the other ones, I take them out and put them in floral foam, but this one's planter that it came in fit perfectly into the planter, so I just left it in there and hot glued it down. I put another Dollar Tree succulent into the green pot, and then for the blue one, I'm just filling it up with some floral foam. And instead of doing a regular succulent in the Dollar Tree garden section, I actually found these florals that I thought kind of looked like succulents, and I really liked the pop of color. So I ended up putting these into that planter and then hot gluing some Spanish moss all the way around it. Lastly, to make the hangers for our plant holders, I just took some jute and I did each different succulent at a different length of jute. This all depends. You could have them all the same length, some way longer, some a little bit shorter. So it's really all up to your preference. I decided that this one was going to be my last plant in the hanger, or the longest one. So I made sure to have a lot of jute left. And after wrapping it around twice, I hot glued the jute to the edges of our planter. That way it would hang completely even. My other two planters are going to be hanging kind of like they're spilling out, but I wanted to make sure that that bottom one was just hanging plain and normal. This planter is going to be my top one, so I am not leaving a lot of slack in the jute. And because I want it to be spilling out, all that I had to do was knot it twice in the back, and then naturally the weight of the succulent will pull it over so it looks like it's spilling out. And for that last succulent, like I told you, I just loved the orange that was in the floral, and I really wanted the pot to match that. So I had this pretty corally peach color, and I decided to go over the blue and instead do it peach. Then the last step is to just tie all of the jute hangers together so that you have your hanging planter. And I did add a little key ring at the top to hold together all of the jute strings, but you don't even have to do that. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep searching, keep creating.